Hualalai. Hualalai is the Hawaiian name of this mountain. In English, that means shy one. And the reason why this mountain gets that name is because if you're down on the coast of Kona, you're looking up at Hualalai, usually always has clouds covering the top of the mountain. So we call it the shy one. Now this used to also be an active volcano, okay? So there was lava flowing down this mountain right where you guys are standing right now. That was over 100 years ago, so the mountain is dormant right now, so we don't have to worry. But if you did want to go on our nature trail, you do have to fill out that waiver form, but if you did go on the nature trail, there's a lava tube and a lava cave down there that you're gonna see. You're not gonna go in the cave or the tube, but you're gonna see it from the nature trail. And this is why we have you fill out that waiver form, because if you decided to go off the trail, you could fall in a lava cave. We have them all over our property because this was an active volcano, okay? But if you stay on the trail, you're gonna be okay. All right, so when that lava was flowing down this mountain, it also created what we call volcanic soil. And volcanic soil is very special. It's really high in minerals and nutrients. So it makes for growing coffee. It makes the coffee cherries very happy, and it gives it a special extra nice taste, kind of like an earthy taste. Okay, we're also standing on land that is part of the Kona coffee belt. If you Googled a map of the big island of Hawaii and you Googled where is the Kona coffee belt, Mountain Thunder would come up, and only coffee that grows on that Kona coffee belt land can be called 100% Kona coffee. So that land is about 30 miles long, 5 miles wide. There's about 600 coffee farmers on that land alone. So if coffee grows anywhere else on the island, it cannot be called 100% Kona coffee. Only coffee growing on the Kona coffee belt. And what makes 100% Kona coffee so special? It's all got that volcanic soil going on. It's growing at the perfect climate. We get a little bit of sun here, a little bit of rain. We're in a cloud forest, so the trees are feeding off the moisture of the clouds. It's like the perfect climate to grow coffee. Okay, so right over here we have a little sample of a coffee tree. That's what it looks like. This is the Arabica Kona typica type of tree. Now when these trees get to be about 3 to 5 years old, they're gonna start producing these beautiful white flowers that look like this. It's in the same family as gardenia and jasmine. So these flowers smell really lovely when they're blooming. And we also call this Kona snow. We don't get any snow here in Kona, but when all the trees are in full bloom, looks like they've been dusted with snow. It's really beautiful. Now come August, these flowers are gonna fall off the trees and they're self-pollinating. So guess what's gonna grow in the place of that flower? A coffee cherry, okay? This is what a coffee cherry looks like. And guess what? It's considered a fruit. Coffee starts off as a fruit, and that is considered a fruit tree. Nobody thinks of coffee as fruit, but this is how it all starts. Now, all of the coffee trees that grow on the Kona coffee belt, all of the cherries are picked by hand. Very labor intensive. One of the reasons why 100% Kona coffee is a little more expensive, or I should say very expensive, because all picked by hand. We can't use any machinery here because our land is very rugged. It's like what I told you. We have lava holes, lava caves, lava tubes throughout this property. Machinery is not going to work on that kind of land. It's also very steep. Not only that, but the trees are going to ripen in different stages. So you'll go to a tree, you pick the red cherries, you'll go back a week later, there'll be more cherries. So the picking season goes from August to December. Now once these cherries are all hand-picked, they're going to go into what we call a wet mill. You can't see that from here. Our property is 20 acres large. It's kind of all spread out. But at the wet mill, the first thing the cherries are going to do, they're going to go into a water tank, just like this. All right, we don't have any floaters today, but if these cherries float, that means we're not going to use them. We have a partial floater. Now, if they float, that means that something might have eaten the inside of the cherry. Maybe an insect ate the inside, it might be rotten on the inside, So we're not going to use the floaters. We're just going to use the ones that sink to the bottom. Then they're going to come out of that water tank and they're going to go into a pulping machine. The pulping machine is going to take off the red skin of this cherry. And I'm going to do it by hand, and I'm going to show you the magic of what is in this cherry. Now, what is in this cherry is considered a pit. It's considered a seed. It's also considered a bean. So Mother Nature really worked her magic here. Okay, I'm going to come around and show you guys what I got out of that cherry. I got 2 beans. These are coffee beans. Coffee beans in their raw form, straight out of the cherry. Okay, that's what they look like. Now, if I were to plant one of these into the earth, guess what I'm going to grow? A coffee tree. So it's a seed, it's a bean, and also a pit. Now, once they have their red skin taken off. You see how it has that wet coating on the outside of the bean? That's a sugar coating because it's a fruit. So it's actually very sweet. So these are going to go into another water tank like that. They're going to soak in there for 24 hours. That's going to take off that sugar coating on the bean. Now when the beans come out of that water tank, they're going to go into a room that looks like this. This is called a drying deck. This is a solar powered room. It's about 110 degrees in there. And the workers are going to rake the beans to help the process. After 1 to 2 weeks, they'll come out of that room and they're going to look like this. They're going to be called parchment. Kind of look like little peanuts, right? Now, when they're at this stage, they can be stored up to a year. Because what the parchment is their outer layer of skin. And guess what? It's just like paper. So if you can imagine, the bean is wrapped in a little envelope of parchment paper. That's why we call it parchment. And when you take the parchment skin off, guess what? There's another layer of skin under the parchment skin that has to come off too. And that's called silver skin. Now, why do we have to take these skins off? Because when the beans go into a 400-degree roasting machine, if there's any skin left on the bean, guess what's going to happen? They're going to catch on fire. The skins are highly flammable. So we got to make sure we get off that parchment skin and we get off the silver skin. I'm going to come around and show you guys like what the parchment skin looks like. Just like a little envelope of paper. Kind of wild, right? That's the parchment skin. That's what it looks like. Okay, so just imagine we've taken off the red skin, we've taken off the sugar coating, they've been in the drying deck. Now we take off the parchment skin, silver skin. Guess what we have underneath all of that? A green bean. You guys are like, finally, right? We get to the green bean. Okay, now, I'm going to tell you about a special bean we call pea berry. Has anybody ever heard of pea berry before? So what happens with pea berry is very rare. We're only going to find about 3% of pea berry beans in all of our cherries. So I could go through all those cherries, I probably won't find one pea berry in there. So I'm going to explain it like this. Remember when I opened up that cherry, it had 2 beans in it? Yes. Okay, well then rather than having 2 beans in the cherry, we only have 1 bean in the cherry when it's pea berry. So rather than having twins in the cherry, you have a single child. When you have a single bean in that cherry, the single bean is going to take all of its nutrients. So it's going to take all of its sugar, all of its caffeine, all of its flavor. So pea berry is kind of the cream of the crop. It's very rare. We don't have it on our sample table because we don't have very many beans. If you go into the gift store, it's going to be the most expensive coffee in there. We don't even have very much of it. Now another thing that we do with the pea berry, because it's a little bit sweeter, we roast it and we cover it in chocolate. And we sell chocolate covered pea berries in our gift store. They're really good. But I always warn people, if you eat 7 of the chocolate covered pea berries, just like drinking 1 cup of coffee. So, everything in moderation, right? Yeah, I see people buy the box of chocolates. They're kind of addicting and they taste really good. So before you know it, the whole box is gone. I see them walking out of Mountain Thunder and they're fully caffeinated. And I'm like, okay, they're not gonna sleep for a while. So yeah, just a little warning. But if you're gonna go on a long road trip, you don't wanna have to stop and buy coffee, you don't wanna have to stop and use the restroom, you have your chocolate pea berries, you're good to go all day. So they're good for that.
That's what I need.
All right, so today is a lucky day because we're not using our dry mill today. So I'm gonna be able to take you guys in there and show you some very cool machinery. I'm gonna ask everybody not to touch anything because there's some sharp edges in there. So if you guys wanna follow me over there, we'll go check out the dry mill. Let's do it. All right, welcome to the dry mill. Come on in, everybody. Okay, you're gonna notice a yellow square over there. That is actually a scale. So one thing we do here at Mountain Thunder is we help support other farmers that are growing on that Kona coffee belt land that I told you guys about. So some of the farmers, they don't have a big production like we have here. They might not have a dry mill, wet mill, roasting machine. They may just have 5 acres of coffee trees. So they're gonna pick their cherries, they're gonna bring them to us, they're gonna put them on that scale. The owner's gonna weigh them by the pound, he's gonna write them a check on the spot, he's gonna pay them right there. And then we're gonna produce their cherries and we sell them in our store. And he knows all the farmers, so he knows what he's getting. And we're only gonna buy cherries that grow from that 100% Kona coffee, Kona belt. But we like supporting the other farmers. Okay, so now when the beans are gonna come to this mill, they've been done with the wet mill, they've had their red skin taken off, their sugar coating, they've been in the drying deck. Now they're at that parchment stage I showed you guys. They're gonna look like this. So they're gonna be put into a bag that looks like this. This is a 1,000-pound bag of parchment beans. This bag is gonna get dumped into this hole in the ground right here. The beans are gonna travel up this elevator right here. They'll come back down. They're gonna go into this first machine. You guys can kind of come down if you want. This is called a puller. This is gonna take off the parchment skin that I showed you guys. So it kind of acts like a cheese grater. It's gonna scrape out the outer layer of the bean. So once that parchment skin is off, they're gonna travel up this elevator here, come back down, and they'll go into this machine here. This is called a polisher. This is gonna take off that other layer of skin that I told you guys about, the silver skin, okay? Now we're not gonna throw any of these skins away. We're gonna take our silver skin, parchment skin, even the red skin, we're gonna make that into fertilizer and mulch. So we're gonna put it back into the earth and we're gonna help the baby coffee trees. Okay, so once they've had their silver skin, now they're a green bean. So they've had all their skins removed. So the green beans are gonna travel up this elevator, come back down, and they're gonna go into this machine, that machine over there. This is a screener and a separator. So this machine has screens that look like this inside of it. Now this screen is gonna have your biggest holes in it. It's gonna catch the biggest beans. This is gonna be your private reserve beans, okay?
What does that mean?
Private reserve is the best beans. And then we have this screen, a little bit smaller holes. This is gonna be your premium. That's one small step under your private reserve. Then we even have a screen that looks totally different. Guess what this is gonna catch? Pea berry. See how it looks totally different? This is gonna be your single bean. And it looks different because when there's 2 beans, they're a little more round like this. When there's only 1, it's gonna be this shape, a little more oval shape. So this is gonna catch the pea berry beans. Now that table over there, that acts like a gravity table. So that's gonna check for the density of the beans. So the more dense the bean, the better. The more flavor, more caffeine, everything you have going on. So number 1 is gonna be private reserve, number 2, premium. Number 3, we're not gonna use to sell in our store, but we're still gonna roast those, and then we're gonna have local people make body products into the beans for us. So they make coffee soap, coffee lotion, coffee body scrub. They even make coffee candles. We sell all that in our gift store. All right, so nothing gets wasted here. Now the beans are going to travel into that last machine in the back there. That's a color sorter. That machine has a computer in it, also a camera. The beans have to be a perfect color. If they're a little bit too dark, they might be too old. If they're a little bit too light, they might be too young. So we want the perfect color. But since they've already been through all of these other inspections, about 80% of the beans will make that last inspection. All right, everybody stay right here. I'm just gonna grab something really quick. Okay, so after the beans have made it through that final machine, guess what? They're gonna be ready for roasting. You guys are like, finally, right? It's a big production. Okay, so we have a roasting room in there. I can't take you in there, but I'm gonna tell you what it does. If you can imagine, a roasting machine is like a big dryer. It's 400 degrees and it's spinning around. So the roast master is going to dump a 100-pound bag of the green beans into her roasting machine. With the heat and the motion, the beans are gonna pop. Sounds just like popcorn. Now when that bean pops, it's gonna get bigger in size, and it's also gonna release everything that we love about coffee. So it's gonna release its sugar, caffeine, flavor, all that happens in the roasting machine. Kind of like baking, same kind of idea. So let's say we're gonna do a roast of the American. All right, American's gonna be our light roast. That's gonna be in the roasting machine, 400 degrees, 14 minutes to get to the American. Now believe it or not, this has your highest caffeine. Most people think it's the dark roast that has the highest caffeine. It's actually the light roast because it spends the least amount of time in the roasting machine. So that's your highest caffeine. And then we'll do a roast of Vienna. Vienna is gonna be your medium roast. And that's gonna be in there 400 degrees, 15 minutes. Only 1 minute more is gonna change the flavor of the beans, okay? So that's gonna be your medium roast. Then we'll do a batch of French. That's gonna be your dark roast. That's gonna be in there 400 degrees, 16 minutes. Now it can give or take a second or two. The roast master, she has a steel cylinder in her machine that catches the beans. So she can pull that little cylinder out and she's gonna inspect the beans. She's gonna look at their color, smell, everything has to be just perfect for each roast. Okay, so then we'll do a batch of espresso. Espresso, 16 minutes, 30 seconds to get to espresso. Okay, everybody thinks espresso has your highest caffeine, but it doesn't. It's kind of how they would prepare an espresso shot, very concentrated, not much water in there. It's gonna taste really strong. Now, if you had a chance to try some of our samples on our sample table, we have a coffee over there called Black and Tan. So what the roast master came up with that, she took the American and she took the French. So she roasted each one separately and then she put them together, 50-50. Okay, so her idea behind that was American has your highest caffeine, French has a nice rich dark flavor, put it together, you have a black and tan. It's a really nice coffee, you should try it if you haven't tried it yet. Okay, best to not store your coffee in the refrigerator or freezer. Coffee does not like moisture. It can also absorb whatever flavors you have going on in your refrigerator. So you really don't want that to happen. The best way to store it is put it in an airscape, an airtight container, put it in a dark, dry storage. It doesn't like bright lights or sunshine. When you open a bag of ground coffee, best to drink it within the first 3 months if you want the best flavor. When you open a bag of beans, you have 6 months. So beans are gonna last you a little bit longer. Now coffee first came to Hawaii about 200 years ago. It came from Brazil and it came to Oahu, and back then we had kings and queens here. So it came to the king on Oahu. He tried this Brazilian coffee and guess what? He loved it. And he said, that's it, I wanna grow it here. So he started growing it on Oahu. It made its way down the island chain. When it came here to Hawaii, they found something special. They said, wow, you have the volcanic soil, you have mountains with elevation, sun, rain, all of that going on. That's how we came up with the Kona coffee belt. And the 100% Kona coffee got to be known all over the world. All right, and then we have a photo down here. It's black and white. That photo was taken 100 years ago. 100 years ago, the men were out in the fields picking the cherries by hand. And in this photo, you'll notice it's all women. The women did all of the sorting and everything I explained to you that all these machines do. The women did all that by hand. So we've come a long ways in 100 years. Okay, that's going to conclude my tour. I hope everybody enjoyed it. And thank you for coming out to Mountain Thunder. Feel free to go grab some more coffee samples, have as many as you want, get fully caffeinated. And if you want to check out those chocolate pea berries, sell them in our store. Just remember, everything in moderation, right guys? And if you want to go on that nature trail, check out a lava tube, lava cave, make sure you fill out that waiver form, and you make sure you stay on the trail. You're welcome to do that too. And I hope you guys enjoy your day, and thanks for coming out. All right?